good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Digital Weather Desk powered by Century Next Bank. I'm Jared Floyd. Happy Tuesday. Check of I-20 as we kind of hit the backside of the evening drive time hour. Now, as we hit 6 o'clock, obviously things seem to be moving smoothly. Fire truck moving over the Thomas Road exit there. But everything seems to be moving okay on the interstates this evening. Today's forecast made possible by ServPro. Monroe, West Monroe, faster to any size disaster. Call or click servpro.com for more, or call 318-345-5121 to get some help today. Again, nothing doing on the I-20 traffic cams there. Everything seems to be moving smoothly. And as you take a look at the almanac and the high temperatures from the day, a little bit of a shift in messaging, if you will, as we look toward the upcoming weekend. I still think that we will deal with some sort of severe weather threat, whether it be isolated or a smidge more widespread. I do think that we will at least deal with some strong storm potential through the daytime hours on Saturday. But the messaging, I'm going to shift it just a little bit, at least in the short term, to focus on two things. One, potential for heavy rainfall, and also the possibility of some gusty winds. These big storm systems, regardless of what happens at the surface in terms of storms and how bad those storms are in terms of severity and intensity and things of that nature, they will bring widespread showers and storms to the region on Saturday. We set that up with a very dynamic storm system that has a lot of strong winds associated with, not just necessarily thunderstorm winds, but just the winds associated with a dynamic storm system. The pressure gradient winds at the surface, the stronger winds aloft, all those things translate to just a windy storm system. And that could be a problem with a lot of the tree debris that we already have, a lot of the compromised trees that haven't been able to be taken down yet, a lot of the tree limbs that are still dangling over power lines and stuff like that. It could cause some problems. Not necessarily, widespread, natural disaster issues, but could cause some sporadic headaches here and there, especially as we've just kind of gotten our infrastructure back to somewhat normal. A look at high temperatures. Again, it was a warm afternoon. Most of us are in the upper 60s to low 70s as the sun goes to bed on this Tuesday. 69 in Monroe, 66 in El Dorado, 72 currently in Natchez. Compare that to where we were 24 hours ago. We are working a very weak cold front through the area, and we will continue to weasel it through the region tonight. It's not necessarily leading to the temperature drops that we're seeing currently. Most of that's just cloud cover. We saw a lot of sunshine yesterday, and it was direct sunshine. Temperatures were in the upper 70s. We're trending a little bit cooler just because it was a cloudy day. Dew points are in the upper 50s to low 60s, and again, a pretty soupy environment, all things considered, for early February, and that will also owe to the potential for thunderstorms this weekend. Check of wind speeds, fairly light for the time being. They were gusty at times today, but they've started to die down a smidge, generally out of the south and southwest, and should stay relatively light as we go through the night. Look at Futurecast here in the short term, not ruling out the possibility as that weak cold front passes through the region tonight that we could maybe see a shower or two across the region. Not overly worked up about the rain potential, although some computer models were a little bit more aggressive with the rain and storms across southern Arkansas, really just rain across southern Arkansas through the overnight. So again, I've kept the rain chances a little bit higher for our northern counties and in the coverage area, southern Arkansas into western Mississippi. So just be aware of that. And of course, you can always pick up your latest site-specific forecast at digitalweatherdesk.com and on the app. Infrared satellite shows quite a bit of cloud cover, and I would not expect that to change much as we go through the next few days. We will work some peaks of sunshine in tomorrow and Thursday, but the clouds are going to return pretty quickly as we work toward the end of the work week and into the weekend. Radar made possible by Brown's Roofing, and you can see some very light radar returns across southern Arkansas, but if you looked at our high temperature, or our temperatures where we're in the 60s to near 70, and the dew points are in the 50s to near 60, there is still some slightly drier air near the surface, so any kind of moisture that is trying to make its way down to ground level probably isn't doing so. Check a Futurecast, and as we go through the next couple of days, we work this weak cold front in tonight. Again, maybe a spotty shower, maybe even an isolated storm along the way, but most of that should be pretty short-lived. Boundary continues to migrate southward and kind of gets into our southern parishes tomorrow afternoon. It does provide a dividing line where we see some cloud cover hanging on in the immediate proximity of the boundary, but as you get farther north of that boundary across portions of southern Arkansas, I think there's going to be a good chance for portions of far northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas to see some clearing tomorrow as the boundary continues to work its way south through the day. That boundary essentially washes out along the Gulf coastline, and then we just start to reestablish the warm, humid environment out ahead of the upcoming storm system. So again, southeasterly winds starting to feed all that Gulf moisture back into place, and you can already start to see storms erupting kind of in the warm sector south of the warm front across portions of the Red River Valley starting Friday afternoon. All that starts to glob eastward as we go through the day on Saturday. This computer model ends right around midday Saturday, and you can already start to see the showers and some occasional thunderstorms as a possibility as well. Now let's go a little bit farther out in time through the rest of the day Saturday. This is a lower resolution model that can go farther out in time, and we can look into the Saturday time frame. And it does, again, look to be Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Saturday night, which will be quite soggy. And we went through this process earlier during the midday stream, so I just want to, again, briefly touch on it. The surface low placement is key at the surface. The surface low placement at the key is key at the surface. So I just said surface twice. Anyway, what I'm saying is there's going to be an area of low pressure at the surface, at ground level. A farther northward placement of that low continues to feed warm, humid, unstable air through the region without really being cut off by any stretch. And it continues to provide that warm, humid, surface-based environment for thunderstorms to thrive. A low placed along the Gulf coastline really kind of puts us in a less favorable environment because now we're on the northern edge of this, so we're going to get more of an easterly flow. We're still going to see plenty of moisture, a lot of water, rain, thunderstorms, but you're not necessarily, you run into the possibility of kind of shutting yourself off from the better surface-based ingredients for thunderstorms. So this would actually be a good scenario. We don't want to see severe weather. Nobody ever wants to see severe weather. So a low placement closer to the Gulf coastline would be much more favorable in avoiding those types of scenarios. A low placement across the region continues to, again, establish that warm sector without ever really cutting it off as it traverses through the region. So that low is going to generally move east. So whether it tracks right over our area, maximizes wind shear right at the base of that low and kind of at what we call the triple point, where you're going to have your cold front and your area, the base of your low, your warm front, maybe an occluded front, all that stuff combining together, and that kind of maximizes wind shear in the atmosphere. Or we could have a low that sits along the Gulf, moves east, and we just get a lot of rain and thunderstorms. But a couple of 100 miles difference north or south in that low makes all the difference in the world in terms of what we deal with on Saturday. They both land with the same scenario. It's going to be showers, storms, a lot of rain, and it's going to be windy. In terms of the severe weather threat, that's the one thing that we really can't jump into with a high degree of certainty. Some wraparound showers are likely to linger as we go through the daytime hours on Sunday. And I forgot to put one graphic in here, so I'm fixing to call an audible. Got to find it because I got a bunch of graphics in here. There it is. And so we'll get to that in a minute. That's the graphic that I'm talking about, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's take a look at moisture in the atmosphere. Total precipitable water. I love this graphic. It basically takes a look at how much moisture is in the total, how much total moisture is in the column of air above us. If we were to wring out that moisture in terms of rainfall, how much rain would fall? Now, the moisture above our heads is constantly changing. So it's just a measure of, again, total moisture in the entire environment above our heads. As we go through the next couple of days, there's going to be quite the dividing line between the deeper plumes of moisture along the coastline and some drier air generally north of I-20. That's the cold front. That boundary makes its way through the region, and again, near the proximity of the boundary, there's going to still be a lot of overrunning moisture and a lot of kind of trapped moisture along the boundary. But the farther north you get of that boundary, the more dry air there is to work with. So we're kind of in the dividing line in the next couple of days. But eventually winds return back out of the south and southeast, and we kind of develop that deeper envelope of moisture ahead of that Saturday storm system. And by the time we get to mid to late day Saturday, we've started a stronger wind field. Again, a dynamic storm system with a lot of strong winds at the surface and aloft will continue to pull in moisture at an accelerated rate. So we're pulling in more water faster, and we're stacking it all up in all layers of the atmosphere. And so again, you sweep a big storm system through, you wring all that rain out, or you wring all that moisture out in terms of rainfall, it's really hard to dodge some type of pretty significant rain threat. What I mean by significant, a couple inches of rain seem very reachable for a lot of our area. Here's a look at the futurecast rainfall. This is not an official rainfall forecast, but it's a kind of a model blend that gives us a general idea of some of the numbers that we could be looking at through midday Sunday. And again, this wouldn't really wouldn't include any wraparound pesky light showers that we deal with through the rest of the day Sunday. And Claudia, Ethel, Peavy, thank you so much for joining in. So most of the computer models are generally painting us about anywhere from about 1 inch to 3 inches of rainfall. Storm-driven rains obviously will fluctuate drastically. We should all know that by now. Here's the official rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center. Again, this is going to continue to kind of go up and down as model data continues to come in. And I again, when I show these Weather Prediction Center rainfall forecasts, I really like how this is painted in our area. But I also need to stress that these forecasts paint with a broad brush, meaning that they're trying to kind of encompass the area as best as possible in terms of forecasting rain totals, with the acknowledgement that storm-driven rains could be much higher than this in isolated areas. It's just like with the ice storm. We're going to run through this storm system on Saturday, and I'm going to go, well, most of the area got, 1 to 3 inches of rain, if the forecast verifies. And somebody's going to go, well, we got 5 inches of rain, or we got 4.25 inches of rain. And they're like, well, we got hammered by 3 different thunderstorms. Well, that's why you had the excessive rainfall. And those trying to forecast who's going to get that extreme amount is virtually impossible. The last thing I really wanted to touch on, and again, I think this is important to note for folks that, again, have compromised trees on their property or have tree limbs that are down. Let's also acknowledge the fact that all the planning in the world going into the weekend, there's going to be a lot of folks, through no fault of their own, that are still going to have tree debris that's going to come down, and it may cause additional structural damage. It may cause sporadic power outages. Again, these are not things that I'm expecting to be widespread hazards across the region, but we should acknowledge the fact that there's a lot of spots that really haven't had those cleanup services, if you will. You haven't been able to get a tree service out to take care of that tree in your yard. You haven't been able to get the roof patched yet because, again, there's a long line of folks trying to get all that stuff taken care of. Winds are not our friend, and heavy rainfall is not our friend, especially when you're talking about leaking roofs or roofs that have been patched or tarped or whatever. We're still very much in the recovery phase from the ice storm. So again, as we look through the winds, these are gusts. These are not sustained winds, but the gusts Friday, Saturday night, and into Sunday, these are non-thunderstorm wind gusts, start getting into the 30 and 40 mile an hour range in some spots. These will cause problems in terms of sporadic power outages and tree limbs coming down and things that, again, on a normal day, if we weren't 2 weeks removed from an ice storm, you wouldn't really think about those kinds of things. You just go, oh, it was a really windy day. These could cause more problems than they normally would. That's probably the best way to describe it. And we stay gusty and breezy through the rest of the day Sunday. So here's a look at the high points. Again, what we're watching: heavy rain, a possible severe weather threat. Note I didn't show you a severe weather outlook because there is not one yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see us get one, but we're going to have to nail down some finer tuned details in the forecast in that regard. The heavy rain threat is first and foremost. The general winds that are associated with this system are probably the secondary hazard that I'm most concerned with, at least right now. And then we'll kind of tackle the severe weather threat as we get a little bit closer. This threat includes basically the entire area. Again, it depends on how you want to look at it. If it's a threat, again, it's going to cause some hazards. It's going to be disruptive. It's going to be a rainy Valentine's Day. If you have outdoor plans, you probably want to start thinking about moving them indoors. But let's also not get it too twisted. We could use some rainfall. We're still in a full-blown drought in a lot of spots. So some sustained measurable rain is a good thing. Most of this is focused through Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. And again, bottom thing is probably the most important thing. Gusty winds starting Friday, continuing Saturday, where they kind of peak Saturday evening, and continue to stay gusty through the day on Sunday. Overnight lows tonight fall into the low 60s. Clouds continue. A spotty shower or storm not out of the question. Best rain chances will be across southern Arkansas. Daytime highs tomorrow near 70. Again, we work a weak cold front through the area tonight, so a lot of temperatures take a little bit of a dip tomorrow. 5 to 8 degrees compared to where we were today. Not too bad. Still well above normal for this time of year, and winds should shift to the north through the afternoon. A look at the 7-day forecast made possible by 3B Hardware shows 70s for highs Thursday, Friday, with some peaks of sunshine perhaps sneaking back in. Valentine's Day will be soggy. Again, heavy rain and wind are biggest concerns right now. We will continue to keep an eye on that severe weather threat. We've continued to go another day without having to highlight Saturday in red. And again, that's just a personal thing. There's no protocol for that. It's just, hey, if I think it's a severe weather day or a day where you need to be extra attentive, then those are the days that we highlight in red. It will be a very rainy and stormy Saturday. Again, not every storm is severe. In fact, most storms aren't severe. And then we trend cooler briefly for the early parts of next week, but we should stay dry. So that's a look at the forecast on this Tuesday evening, February 10th, 2026. Forecast is always available at digitalweatherdesk.com and on the Digital Weather Desk app, available for Apple and Android users. And the Fishing Game comes out at 8 p.m. tonight, made possible by First South Farm Credit. I'll join you tomorrow morning, maybe a little earlier than normal with our live stream tomorrow. And then our midday live stream may be a little bit later than normal. I am headed to CrossIt to speak to the Century Next folks there. I visited the West Monroe branch, the Ruston branch last week. Going to CrossIt tomorrow. Going to West Monroe at the end of the month, and going to Monroe at the beginning of next month. So I appreciate them having me out. It's always cool when people actually want to hear what you have to say, even though sometimes I don't really have much to say. So I'll be there tomorrow morning. I'll join you first thing in the morning. It may be, again, fairly early, but no big deal. You can watch it whenever, and we'll be back tomorrow midday-ish, and we'll continue to keep an eye on this Saturday storm system. Thanks so much for making the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank, part of your day. Katie, thank you so much for the safe travels wishes. Hopefully everything goes smoothly, and I will see you back here tomorrow morning. Again, Fishing Game comes out tonight at 8 p.m., and I'll see you in the morning as well. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Century Next Bank is proud to sponsor Digital Weather Desk with local meteorologist Jared Floyd.
The Digital Weather Desk is your local source for the latest weather information to help keep you and your family safe and to plan your week. You can follow us on our social media platforms, download our app, and you can also find us at digitalweatherdesk.com. The Digital Weather Desk,
Powered by Century Next Bank.